Just a quick video today unboxing a couple of cool auction wins, including a purple label of death that I bought on purpose. Why would I do that? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to Swarm of Comics. I'm your handsome and humble host, Randy, and I apparently straightened out my goatee better than the intro video that you just saw, and I'm too lazy to re-record that, but yeah, who knows? Anyway, today I have three books. One book that I bought from, I think, Hip Comics auction. It was a book that I had been looking for a little while. It involves two of my favorite characters, and funny enough, neither of them are Marvel characters, even though I'm definitely a Marvel guy. So they appear in the same book together. I've been chasing a raw copy, and they were just a little too expensive, and I just didn't want to spend the money on a graded copy. So I ended up getting this super cheap, like $20 or less than $20. And it was definitely going for more money than that. So I'm going to open up that book right now. So you'll get to go along the ride with me as I cut this all open. So Infinity Comics, and they were selling their books through Hip Comics. So let's just open this book up. This is one of the Gemini mailers that everybody loves. So let's cut this open and get this book out of here. All right, that was pretty easy. So we're just going to slide this out. Throw the trash on the floor. It's messy outside of the camera range. I don't have enough comics like Jim from Bronzeville to make that big of a mess behind me yet. Plus, my wife would probably kill me. If you don't know, this is you wouldn't know this unless you came to my house, but this is my home office and craft room and bedroom and everything like that. Sometimes you see on the desk right there a sewing machine, and that's the sewing machine pedal down there. And there's usually books up there, all the smart books my wife has. My books are all funny books, but that's a lovely day bed over there for when I decide I want to take a nap while I'm working. So anyway, this book here is let's open it up and look at it. Let's open it up and look at it together. See what kind of shape it really is in. I got kind of robbed on some recent auctions of raw books. I'm scared to buy raw books because of it. But for 20 bucks or whatever it was, you couldn't even beat this. So this is Batman number 253. That's the big reveal right there. So you've got the Shadow, Lamont Cranston, and you've got Batman, Bruce Wayne here. And this is that era of when Batman really started getting, this is a double cover. Oh, shit, a double cover. I swore again. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, Auntie Karen. If she watches this, she's going to be so mad. Ooh, that second cover looks so good. I don't think that was in the listing that this was a double cover. But, So this is what I was going to say was the Denny O'Neil era of Batman, when things started to get a little darker. And they were having a lot of team ups. He would team up. I'm sorry, I'm fascinated by the book and I'm not paying attention to my video at all. I forgot where I was. He was teaming up with everything from Swamp Thing to Phantom Stranger, and things were just in, this darker era. Robin had been shipped off to college somewhere, boarding school college, and Batman was on his own. So this is the book I've been looking at for a while, and these books are starting to get hot. Nobody can afford the books that are all worth $1 million now, and people are starting to revisit this era of books. You heard me talk ad nauseum about Wonder Woman, and I've also mentioned Aquaman because I had a great couple of Aquaman books. I actually have a batch of Aquaman books coming. I bought as a lot for a steal, and I'm hoping to get those slabbed and maybe flip those. Maybe I'll start doing that. But so this is a great book, Batman 253. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men everywhere. the shadow knows. So not Neil Adams. I think Neil Adams was on the book. This is a Kaluta cover, which makes sense because Kaluta was doing the shadow. So pretty excited to pick this up for $20 with a double cover. And double cover books can be actually graded separately. The covers will be graded different. Depending on the condition. Sometimes the inside could be a 9.8 and the outside could be a 6 or 7. And I'm going to tell you with the spine ticks, this is probably a 6 or a 7. But I think it's a pretty good book. No complaints there. So awesome stuff. If you haven't seen this or you haven't read this or whatever, pick this book up. It's pretty cool. So that's the first book. This next batch of books I got in a heritage auction, and this is going to be really packaged up. So this is going to be a pain to open. So I'll just talk while I do this and hope the bubble wrap isn't too loud. And I hope you're enjoying my shirt. I definitely read a lot of Whitman comics when I was a kid. I love having this logo on the shirt. It's a little subtle, but Whitman was Whitman had a lot of even horror books in the 70s that we used to read. I think Grimm's fairy tales and stuff like that. And obviously they had Battle of the Planets. I think they were the ones that did the Battle of the Planets books. And a lot of those second tier books. We used to pick them up at the pharmacy or whatever, because they would have a good mix of titles. So, all right, here we are digging into this. Full of wasteful peanuts that I don't think we really need. So I'm going to make a mess of the floor here as I get all this out. And these two books are already graded, so they're CGC books. And I considered buying one of the books raw and getting it graded myself, but I can't trust grading from other people. I bought a Heritage book. And Heritage has pretty good graders. They usually a pretty good judge. They literally do thousands of comic books, every month that they're looking at grading and people are consigning. And I bought a Heritage book that they said was a 9. And I got it graded and it came back a 7.5. That's a big difference. That basically made the book. I probably am underwater on that book. And that definitely soured me on grading some books without being able to see the raw books first. So I wanted to buy this book raw and I just couldn't. I ended up just getting a lower grade slabbed version of it. I feel like the prices have come down a little bit. I feel like it's kind of a grail book because I used to love these. And it's actually not even really a comic book. It's a magazine. So you've probably seen I've had a couple of those in the background before. I've definitely done magazines before. I had that Empire Strikes Back comic magazine. I have another one that has Creature from the Black Lagoon on the cover. And now I have this one, Vampirella. Let me get this out of the bag. And this is Vampirella #1. The cover was by Frank Frazetta, and it is iconic, and everybody knows this book, who's in comics. Funny story, while I struggle with this tape, is that there was a local auction, a state sale, that was right in the next town over from me. And they had this book up for auction. And I'm not going to remember the prices, so I'm going to make up the prices. I threw in a bid at $300. And that bid was I was the high bidder for a while. And then it started creeping up. And I started fighting with people. And the book ended up getting up to about $600. And that was my limit. I said, I can't go over that. It was a day or two before the auction. I said, if it's $600 now, when the auction hits and everybody starts sniping and bidding at the last minute, it's going to skyrocket to $800, $900 or something like that. And so 600 was my limit. I got the dreaded email that says, you've been outbid. Somebody bid $610 or something like that. I didn't watch the auction, but I got an email afterwards that said, you were outbid on this and you lost this, but here's some other opportunities. And the guy who bid $610 won. And I probably should have been watching the auction because that was a much higher grade. So Here we go again with the Vampirella. Let's look at this here. So this is a 4.5, obviously it's a magazine. That amazing Vampirella cover there from Frazetta with the infamous signature right there and the infamous background. Look out, she's waiting inside. This first collector's edition for you. It's got a little date stamp on it there, or a stamp, which I don't think affects the value. It's got some spine ticks. It's definitely got a lot of color rub there and stuff like that, and a lot of color rub on the back. But I don't care. I don't need this in a high grade. I can't afford it in a high grade. This is from Warren Publishing, 1969, and this is just an iconic book. But I have a bunch of the other Warren books, raw, beat up condition. I used to buy them in the dollar bin, and I loved reading them. There's some amazing artists in there that and writers that were really famous that did a lot of stories in these. Neil Adams was doing these books, I think, in 66 or 67 or something like that. You think I even have one I was reading the other day, but they had, the eerie books and creepy and stuff like that. So I had never had Vampirella, and now I have a copy. So pretty amazing grail book there to enjoy and love. All right. Next book, which is also the last book. So we are getting out of here fast. I cannot fight with this tape, but I'm not going to bother. I am going to fight this tape. Why would they put tape on the sides, on the top? I don't even understand what they did here. I appreciate good packaging, but when you get down to it, this is just the comic cover. It's not protecting anything, really. But this book is a purple label of death. And you've heard me talk in other videos, and you watch other people's videos, that when you get books graded, you dread the purple label of death. I probably overused and beaten that phrase to death, but it is a purple label. And purple label with CGC, which is the grading company, means it's been restored. Somebody's done something to it. They decided to put tape on it to hold the cover on. They decided to put glue on the staples. Maybe there's staple tears, and to hold the book on to those staples, they've put glue. They'll also use to do color touch, whether it was something professional with paint or marker or anything to try and touch up these books. And that was a trend again back in, I think it was mostly the 80s, and people didn't think about the repercussions. And I don't know whether people were trying to get better grades for the books to sell them for more, but I just think people are trying to, hey, this book's in rough shape. How can I fix it up? And there's still a lot of restoration that goes on today. Some people restore books, and it's for more preservation. You can get preserved grading, and sometimes people try and do restoration and get away with it without being caught. But CGC seems to be catching on to a lot of it. I've seen some other YouTubers that are submitting books. They get purple labels, and they're starting to get them for cleaning covers. CGC doesn't like when you clean covers with water or any other type of solutions, which you can absolutely do. Flying L Comics has a channel that is very underappreciated and very underwatched. He does step by step, takes the whole book apart with the staples and then puts it all back together, and he washes the pages. He's doing blue lights. Sometimes he knows he's going to get a purple label, but he knows he's making the book ultimately look better. So, but you don't want to buy it. You don't want to buy a book and then find out it's purple label when you get it slabbed, which has happened to me now twice, apparently. And that's unfortunate. But this book is a book that I would never be able to buy unless it was a purple label, or it was absolutely so beat up that it wasn't even presentable. And a lot of this is presentable. How do these books look in a case, up on a wall, or anything like that? So all the talk about you don't want purple label of death, and then I buy a book on purpose that is purple label. So this book is from 1940, and this is Buck Rogers, #1. Now, it's a little rough up in the corners, but this book is from 1940. And I'll show you the back cover. It's exactly the same thing without the label, without the trade dress on there. And that's beautiful. It's got great colors. It's dirty, but, and it's got an awful spine roll that you can see here. And the spine's pretty beat up. So this is a Parent 3.0. Cream to off-white pages from 1940. This book new would cost 10 times what I bought it for. But Buck Rogers was first appearing in other books, but this was number one of getting his own book. But he'd been in books in the 1930s, I think, before this. Maybe it was New Funnies or something like that. I probably should have done 5 seconds of research before starting the video, but I didn't. So super cool cover. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Now you're going to ask yourself, how is this restored? What did they do? So the restoration on this was none of those things I mentioned. One of the ways you can restore books is trimming them. Let's say it's got a really jagged, ragged edge over here. You slice the whole thing, so now it's even, or the top or the bottom or whatever it happens to be. My suspicion is they cut the side, because this book is really squeezed in here. Maybe they trimmed it at the top. They don't tell you. Maybe the Grader's Notes would say. But this book was trimmed. No color touch, no glue, no replaced staples, no nothing like that. So if I'm going to buy a Purple Label book that presents this well from 1940, super rare book. When have you ever seen one? You probably have not. And all they did was somebody trimmed it. I'm not even sure. You know what? With that spine roll, I bet they trimmed the top of the bottom. I don't think they trimmed the side. But wherever they trimmed this, it doesn't matter to me. This is one of those, hey, I bought this book for a fraction of the price of what an unrestored one would go for. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you look this book up and check it out, and check out all the books that I got. I got my slab Vampirella here and my Buck Rogers. Maybe I'll do this like for the thumbnail. I'll hold these up and just freeze for a minute so I can cut it out later. Are you ready? See, you all came along that journey with me. We had fun. How about we do this? No, too much ring light. All right. So thank you for joining me here. Down below, you'll be able to subscribe and like, and comments apparently get a lot of traction. So go down below and, sorry to point to things, and do all those things. And thank you for joining me again. I'm Randy from Swarm of Comics, and I'll see you in another episode. Bye.